They always say dogs can sense things before we do. Illness, earthquakes, spirits. But nothing prepares you for the moment when your dog starts seeing something that you can't. Something that's watching you. My name's Kyle. I don't tell this story to scare people. I tell it so maybe someone else will listen to their dog before it's too late. It happened last October. My girlfriend Emma and I decided to take a weekend camping trip deep into the Appalachian forest. Far from cell signals, just us, the trees, and our golden retriever, Benny. Benny was more than a pet. He was family, smart, loyal, goofy, the kind of dog who'd rather sleep with his head on your lap than chase squirrels. The first day was perfect. Cool breeze, orange leaves, a sky so clear it looked painted. We hiked about 5 miles in, found a clearing near a creek, set up the tent, and cooked over a fire. But that night, Benny started acting strange. At first it was subtle. Around 10 p.m., while we sat by the fire, Benny stood up, ears high, eyes locked into the woods behind us, not moving, not blinking, just staring. Probably heard a deer, I said, but Emma frowned. Why isn't he barking? Good question. Benny always barked at wildlife. This time he was silent, frozen, like he was waiting. That night he wouldn't sleep. He kept circling the tent. Then he'd sit at the front entrance, facing the trees. At 2:14 a.m., I remember the time exactly, I woke up to a low growl, not loud, almost like he was trying not to wake us. I opened the tent. Benny was sitting there, eyes locked into the woods. His fur bristled, lips curled slightly, but he never made a sound beyond that growl. I shined my flashlight into the forest. Nothing, just trees and blackness. "Come on, boy," I whispered, "get in." He didn't move. I gave up after a minute and zipped the tent back up. I figured he'd bark if something got too close, but he never did. The next morning he was acting normal again, wagging his tail, begging for bacon. We laughed it off. But that second night, things got worse. At dusk, Benny started whining, pacing, scratching at the ground, like he was trying to bury something. Then, out of nowhere, he bolted, ran full speed into the woods, and disappeared. We called his name for 2 hours. No bark, no whimper, just silence. At one point, I swear I heard footsteps, human ones, crunching leaves, but when I called out, the sound stopped. We left the lantern on that night, hoping Benny would find his way back, but around 3 a.m., something else did. I woke up to the sound of breathing, not Emma. Heavy breathing, outside the tent. I reached for my flashlight and froze. There were shadows moving, just beyond the tent wall. Then came the worst sound I've ever heard in my life, a bark. But it wasn't Benny's. It was someone imitating a bark, low, broken, like a person trying to sound like a dog. Then it whispered my name. "Kyle," Emma screamed. I grabbed the hatchet from the backpack, burst out of the tent. No one was there, no footsteps, no signs of Benny, just a cold breeze and the whisper of the trees. We packed up at first light, didn't even eat. We just wanted out. About a mile into the hike back, Benny appeared, standing in the trail, tail still, head low, eyes staring through me. I called his name. He didn't respond. I crouched down, held out a treat, his favorite jerky stick. That's when I noticed it. His eyes weren't right. One pupil was bigger than the other, and they weren't focused on me. They were looking past me. I turned around. Nothing. When I looked back, Benny had vanished again. We sprinted the rest of the trail, not talking. The weirdest part? When we got back to the car, Benny was sitting next to it, calm, wagging his tail. Emma didn't want to take him home, said he felt wrong, but I couldn't leave him. We drove back in silence. That night, Benny sat at the bedroom door, watching the hallway. He didn't sleep, didn't blink. The next morning, I woke up to paw prints in the living room. Human ones, bare feet, wet, leading from the door to the side of our bed. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen, just those prints. We left the house that afternoon, never went back. We live in an apartment now. Benny still stares into corners sometimes, growls at empty hallways. Sometimes we hear barking outside our window, even though we're 6 stories up. Last week, he started digging in the closet. I found bones, tiny ones. I don't know what Benny saw in those woods. I don't know what followed us back, but I do know this. The next time your dog stares at something you can't see, run. Before we get into the next story, if you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks. They always say dogs know before we do, before anything else. I used to think that was just something people said to sound wise, like how animals sense earthquakes, or dogs know when you're sad. But now I know. Sometimes they sense what should never be seen. My name's Ryan, and this story happened in the fall of 2022. I haven't talked about it much, mostly because when I do, people look at me like I've lost my mind. But I have to say it. Maybe to warn someone else before they make the same mistake I did. It was supposed to be a weekend escape, just me, my girlfriend Maya, and our German Shepherd Max. We'd been together 4 years and things were getting tense. City life, work stress, endless phone notifications. We needed space to breathe, somewhere without signals or schedules. So I picked a place off the map, literally, a spot in the Rockies I'd found on a hiking forum. Remote, quiet, unmarked, perfect. We packed light, drove 5 hours, then hiked nearly 2 more before reaching the spot. A small forested clearing beside a narrow stream. No cell bars, no humans, just the sound of the water and the crunch of leaves beneath our boots. Max loved it. He was sniffing every rock and tree, tail wagging like a metronome, his kind of place. The first night was peaceful, cold air, stars, a warm fire. We told stories, roasted marshmallows, and laughed like the old days. I remember thinking, this is what we needed. Then, sometime after midnight, Max growled. Not loud, not threatening, just low and constant. I opened my eyes, still half asleep. He was sitting at the front of the tent, rigid, staring into the dark trees like something was watching. Probably a raccoon, I whispered, or a deer. Maya rolled over. He doesn't growl at deer. We listened. No footsteps, no rustling, just that awful silence that makes your skin crawl. Come on, boy, I said, patting the blanket. Lie down. But he didn't. Not for hours. I drifted in and out of sleep, to the sound of Max's quiet growl, and the feeling that something was standing just beyond the trees. The next morning, he was off. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't play. Just paced the edges of the clearing, ears pinned back. Every few minutes, he'd stop and stare into the woods. Not in one direction, but all of them. Like he didn't know where it was coming from. That should have been enough. That should have been the moment we packed up and left. But no, I brushed it off. He's just on edge, I said. New place, wild animals. He'll be fine. Maya wasn't convinced. He's never like this. Something's wrong. I should have listened. That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Max started growling again. Not just quiet this time. Loud, deep, primal. He stood between us and the woods, hackles raised, teeth showing. I stepped toward him, and he lunged. Not at me, but toward the trees. He barked once, twice, then went dead silent and bolted into the forest. "Max!" I yelled, running after him, but the woods swallowed him, just like that. We spent hours searching, calling his name until our voices cracked. No sign, no bark, no whimper, just cold wind and endless black trees. Eventually we had to stop. It was too dark, too dangerous. We sat by the fire, calling into nothing. Then, around 3:30 a.m., we heard something. Crunching leaves, not fast, not slow, like footsteps, 2 legs. I stood up fast, flashlight in hand, scanning the woods. "Max?" No answer. The light bounced off tree trunks and fog, nothing else. Then Maya grabbed my arm, hard. "Ryan, listen," and I did. The footsteps had stopped. But something else came, a low bark, but not Max's. It sounded wrong, like someone pretending to be a dog, too slow, too flat, almost like a mockery. Then we heard breathing, right behind the tent. I ripped open the flap and shined the light. Nothing. But I swear, for just a second, the beam caught eyes. Tall, reflective, not animal eyes, human-shaped, but far too wide. We didn't sleep, just huddled close with the hatchet, waiting for daylight. When the sun finally rose, we packed everything in record time and hiked like hell out of there. And then, on the trail back to the car, there he was, Maximum, standing in the middle of the path, still, silent, staring at us. "Buddy," I shouted, running toward him. He didn't move. When I got close, I stopped. His fur was covered in dirt and burrs. His eyes were wide, not panicked, blank, as if he'd seen something his brain couldn't process. And he smelled like rot. I reached out to touch him. He flinched. Max had never flinched from me before. We got him in the car. Didn't say a word the whole drive home. That night, Max sat by the front door and growled, just like in the woods. Same posture, same look. Only now, he wasn't staring outside. He was staring down the hallway, at nothing, for hours. Maya said she heard scratching in the walls. I thought she was just shaken. But then I heard it too. And the whisper, just once. Software. Not a voice you'd recognize. Just enough to freeze your blood. It said my name. Ryan. We moved apartments the next week. Max never returned to normal. He won't go near windows. Sleeps in the bathtub. Sometimes we find him staring at corners, trembling. I took him to 3 vets. Clean bill of health every time, but we know. Something followed us back, and it's still here. The worst part? I remember what I said when he growled that first night. He's just being weird. I ignored the warning, and I don't think I'll ever be forgiven. Moral of the story, if your dog warns you, listen before it's too late. They say, don't bring things home from the forest, especially if you don't know who or what they belong to. My name's Lucas. This happened 2 summers ago, but I still wake up some nights hearing the bark, not my dog's. Something wearing his voice. It started as a regular camping trip. Just me, my sister Allie, and our Labrador, Duke. We picked a spot in northern Oregon. Deep woods, no other campers, a freshwater creek nearby. Perfect isolation. We reached the clearing late afternoon. While setting up the tent, Duke was doing his usual thing, sniffing, rolling in dirt. chasing leaves. All was fine until he wandered off near the tree line. "Allie, where's Duke?" I asked. She shrugged, halfway into the tent. "Probably chasing a squirrel." But then I heard a bark, short, sharp, then silence. I followed the sound through dense trees until I found him. Duke was just standing there, completely still, his head tilted, eyes locked on something on the ground. At first I thought it was just trash, maybe a piece of gear someone left behind. But when I got closer, I saw it was an old, cracked leather dog collar, worn, rusty buckle, faded engraving. It read, "Return what you took." Weird, right? I called for Duke, but he didn't move, just kept staring at it. Then, before I could stop him, he nosed it up and dropped it at my feet, tail wagging. I picked it up, and the second I did, he barked. Not in excitement, in fear, like he wanted me to drop it. I should have listened. Instead, I shoved it in my backpack. Back at camp, everything felt off. The air was colder, the forest quieter, and Duke, he wouldn't come near my bag, just sat a few feet away, whining low. Allie noticed too. Why is he acting like that? I didn't answer. I didn't want to admit I was starting to feel it too, like we weren't alone. That night, it got worse. Duke didn't sleep inside the tent like usual. He curled up outside, near the fire pit, eyes fixed on the woods. At around 2 a.m., I woke up to his growling, deep, unrelenting. "Allie, you hear that?" She sat up instantly. "What's he growling at?" We peeked out. Duke was standing now, hackles up, tail straight, growling at the forest. I grabbed my flashlight, shined it toward where he was looking. Just trees, then movement. Not animal-like, human. A figure, barefoot, pale, standing half-hidden behind a tree, just watching us. I blinked. It was gone. "Allie, go back in the tent, now." We stayed up until dawn, Duke guarding the entrance like a soldier. Next morning, we decided to leave early. Something wasn't right. As I packed, I pulled the cursed collar from my bag to toss it. The second it hit the ground, Duke lunged, grabbed it, and tore into the trees like his life depended on it. We chased after him for over an hour, screaming his name, getting cut up by branches, no signs, no sounds, just gone. I didn't want to leave without him, but Allie was shaking. "Lucas, we need to go." We hiked out, constantly checking behind us. When we got back to the car, Duke was there, sitting beside it, covered in mud, collar gone, tail wagging slow. "Allie," I said, "something's wrong." And I was right. Back home, Duke changed. He stopped eating. He'd stare into corners, bark at empty rooms, and at night, he'd growl at our bedroom door. The worst part? Sometimes he'd whimper, like someone was hurting him. But when I rushed in, he'd just be sitting there, head tilted, staring at me. Then came the scratching. Not Duke's. It came from inside the walls. Light at first, then louder, like something trying to get out. Allie moved out a week later, couldn't take it anymore. I tried to help Duke, vet visits, prayers, even a pet psychic. Nothing worked, until one night, I found him in the backyard, digging like mad, dirt flying everywhere, growling deep, and in that hole, I saw it, the collar. Somehow, it was back. Same faded leather, same words, "Return what you took." I picked it up. My hands went ice cold. Then Duke lunged, not playfully, viciously. He bit my arm, hard, and snarled like he didn't know me. I screamed. He backed off. That night, I drove back to the forest, found the same clearing. I buried the collar deep, marked the spot with a rock, whispered, "I'm sorry." When I got home, Duke was gone, door locked, no sign of escape, just paw prints, leading to my bed, then stopping. I never saw him again, but sometimes I hear him outside, barking, then silence, then a whisper, "Return what you took."